The next item on our agenda is a bill, House File 2146 from our very own Vice Chair Katiza Watoon. Vice Chair Katiza Watoon, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to move House File 2146 to be before the committee.
Vice Chair Katiza Watoon moves House File 2146 before the committee. Vice Chair Katiza Watoon, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, House File 2146 is an appropriations bill for the Minnesota Council on Economic Education. One of my constituents, who is a professor at Gustavus, first brought this proposal to my attention. And as you'll hear today, MCEE does important work in assisting educators to better serve their students on their journey of personal finance and economics. Back in 2011, the legislature adopted state academic standards for economics and personal finance. These standards include standards and benchmarks at each grade level from kindergarten through grade 12. In our state, standards in personal finance fall within the economic standards. However, most Minnesota teachers are not adequately prepared to effectively instruct their students in these topics. Economics and personal finance are typically taught at the high school level by secondary social studies teachers. While Minnesota produces an abundance of teachers prepared in history, political science, geography, and the other social sciences, only 2% of secondary social studies teachers focus on economics or finance in their undergraduate preparation. Yet high school social studies teachers are often called upon to teach economics and personal finance at any time. Now, our elementary teachers, who must help their students meet economics and personal finance standards, typically have very little training in these areas, and many of them have never even taken one college course in economics. So House File 2146 would appropriate $150,000 a year for the next 2 years from a Consumer Financial Literacy Education Fund within the Commerce Department to the Commissioner of Education in order to provide a support grant to the Minnesota Council of Economic Education in order to continue delivering a teacher professional development program that aligns with state standards and to increase the number of teachers who are reached annually. This program includes the provision of teacher workshops and courses. They range from first introductions to the topic to refresher and specialty workshops to full courses for graduate credit that all teachers with non-academic undergraduate and master's degrees need to become eligible to teach economics through the University of Minnesota's College in the Schools program. These workshops are offered in person in the Twin Cities and around the state through affiliated centers for economic education at 5 higher education institutions and online statewide. Mama, oh, honey, I'm in a meeting. Can you wait? Thank you. The program also includes the training of a master teacher corps to serve as instructors and mentors to their fellow K-12 teachers throughout the state. These accomplished teachers train other teachers, both in subject matter content and in effective classroom implementation and management. MCEE is uniquely qualified to provide this professional development. There's no other organization routinely providing this type of professional development for Minnesota teachers. So in the testimony that follows, you will hear from Executive Director Julie Bunn about the challenges they currently face in order to meet this demand, and from an MCEE trained teacher about the important role this organization has played in preparing her to teach to the state standards. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to introduce Julie Bunn, Executive Director of MCEE.
All right, Ms. Bunn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Stephenson and members. As she said, my name is Julie Bunn. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Council on Economic Education. This council was formed in 1961 by a coalition of business leaders, labor leaders, and academics. From its inception, its goal was to increase the financial and economic literacy of all Minnesotans. This council is recognized and has been throughout its history as a national leader amongst all state councils. It's one of the most active and engaged councils in the country. Since its founding, it's trained over 35,000 Minnesota teachers and reached over 3 million Minnesota students. MC delivers on this mission primarily by teaching teachers, training them to deliver on those economic and financial standards, and additional information on global food markets, the environment, climate change, and other topics. We also engage directly with students through competitions and capstone experiences and an intensive summer personal finance institute. Finally, we also reach communities by helping train the staff of community-based nonprofits to deliver customized financial literacy education to their clients. The target of our teacher professional development is the over 1,600 newly licensed teachers every year and the over 25,000 in-service teachers who are among the categories of teachers that can be at any time asked to or required to teach to these economics, personal finance standards in the state. Demand for our services increased during the pandemic. During the last fiscal year, we reached over 1,200 Minnesota teachers with professional development. This is over twice the number reached in each of the previous 2 years before the pandemic. This last year, we taught over 61 workshops and delivered over 360 hours of unique content to teachers. As Representative mentioned, we reached them through a variety of their stages of their career and also through a variety of mechanisms and platforms. We also are unique among all state councils in the country in offering workshops in culturally responsive and inclusive methods of teaching personal finance. Well over 1/3 of MC programming centers on financial literacy and capability. The Minnesota State Personal Finance Standards and Benchmarks contain topics on budgeting and savings, investing, credit and consumer skills, including how to avoid fraud and to protect themselves as consumers. The budget for MSC to provide these services to teachers and students and to the public is well over $900,000 a year based on very detailed sub-program budgets. Over the course of our history and currently, a couple $100,000 a year come from private sector corporations and family foundations, most related to the financial sector and financial institutions to deliver this education. But these resources are not enough to train the number of teachers and reach the number of students necessary to support the standards in economics and personal finance in the state. Across the United States, other state councils receive financial support from their state treasurers, from banking commissioners, from security commissioners, et cetera, and are thus able to have robust programming in these areas. The legislation before you, as Representative mentioned, appropriates funds from a consumer financial education account in Commerce for this purpose to MCE. MCE worked with Commerce to identify this funding source and to write this bill. At a time when the need for financial literacy education is greater than ever due to the crisis we've been experiencing, and at a time when bipartisanly the legislature is moving forward multiple pieces of legislation to strengthen the personal finance requirement and more access for Minnesota high school students, and when the House Selects Committee on Racial Justice underscored the need for more financial literacy education in this area, this funding will help underwrite the council's efforts to increase its personal finance teacher training efforts, student programming, and outreach to underserved populations. In closing, in addition to the teacher you are about to hear from, in your packet for this hearing and listed on the schedule document online is quotes from student evaluations of our programming and testimony from many more MCE teachers trained by us. And also in an email sent to you previously are links to videos with more student and teacher testimony. This information also contains my contact information. Please feel free to reach out and ask additional questions. Thank you. We now have one more testifier.
Thank you, Dr. Bunn. And I think that this was a great example of just very skillful advocacy, either by Dr. Bunn or Vice Chair Katiza Watu. And the next testifier is a teacher at one of the very finest high schools in the state, located in one of the very fine, or right across the street, I guess, from one of the very finest cities in the state that, you know, just by coincidence, I have the pleasure of representing. Ms. Jamie Shaw from Champlain Park High School. Ms. Shaw.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevenson and committee members. My name is Jamie Shaw. I am a social studies teacher at Champlain Park, one of 5 high schools in the Anoka-Hennepin district. I teach primarily economics and personal finance, as well as US government and politics, both of which are required courses for seniors. I'm a graduate of St. Cloud State University, where I was first introduced to the Minnesota Council on Economic Education as an undergraduate. I've now been teaching for 22 years and have been involved with the Minnesota Council for every single one of those years. Through MCEE, I have attended countless professional development opportunities. I've taught thousands of high school students, everything from scarcity to banking and monetary policy. And it was because of the professional development opportunities through MCEE that I was able to expand my knowledge and network of other educators that gave me the tools to offer comprehensive and engaging lessons for my students. Nowadays, I have outgrown my role as a participant and I'm giving back, teaching and mentoring other teachers as a master teacher for the Minnesota Council. I have had 6 student teachers since 2010, all having taught economics and personal finance with me, 3 of which are currently teaching economics in other neighboring districts. Most new teachers that I've worked with are nervous about economics and personal finance. They are underprepared, it's scary, it's unknown, but as soon as I expose them to the wealth of information, the workshops, and the network of passionate teachers through MCEE, they never see economics and personal finance the same again. It's like fun and engaging and they love it. The projects I'm currently working on, I believe, are the most pressing for teachers and students today. First, for students, a college dollars and cents summer institute. A fellow master teacher and I recreated an online hybrid personal finance course for high school students that allows for live student-teacher interaction as well as a virtual component for flexibility. Last summer, we were able to triple our attendance because of this format and reach many students outside of the metro area that aren't able to attend the week-long class that's formally in person. And then second, a culturally responsive personal finance workshop for educators. And this workshop is for teachers to learn ways to approach personal finance topics with an inclusive and equitable lens to a diverse group of students and make meaningful connections between what students learn in school and their cultures, languages, and life experiences. These connections then help students not only learn those important personal finance topics, but then develop higher level academic and problem solving skills and see the connection between what they learn at school and their lives. In teaching this workshop several times, it's evident that personal finance topics are extremely important to teachers. There's this push to teach a well-rounded personal finance curriculum in school, but many teachers feel unprepared or they have not found quality, culturally relevant materials. Workshop participants have overwhelmingly praised and have found value in the personal finance content, the usable lessons, and the ongoing teacher support. So to summarize, economics and financial literacy are critical skills for our students. It is imperative that students and teachers are front and center when designing personal finance curriculum, training opportunities, and engaging lessons. And that is exactly the vision of the Minnesota Council. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you. That it concludes the author's testimony, and we had no members of the public wishing to testify. Discussion to the bill. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate this topic. I believe that financial literacy is something, I tried to put my hand down there, lower hand. I believe that financial literacy is incredibly important for everybody's background, regardless of a person's background, where they come from, how they live, their lifestyle, because empowering people with information to make wise and prudent financial decisions is better off for not only them, but for their families and everybody. But I've heard both testifiers reference something called culturally responsive. So I'm curious if you could help me understand, if I were your student, how would you be culturally responsive to me versus my wife, who's Asian?
Dr. Bunn or Ms. Shaw? Maybe Dr. Bunn's unmuted, so we can start with her.
I'll start by, I'm going to hand it off to Teacher Shaw to reflect on this. It's really about understanding as best you can, first of all, what your own biases are before you walk into the classroom as a teacher. So where are you coming from? To what extent do you know about the lives and backgrounds of the student population in your classroom? What about your own history may lend biases to your lens through which you see them and through which you see the material? Secondly, by understanding your students, you are attempting to possibly incorporate things you know about their lives and culture into the current lesson and materials. But most importantly, it's about teaching methods. It's about listening to the students, drawing them out, and allowing them to bring their stories, their cultural background, and their family stories and histories into the material at hand, whatever curriculum you might be using. But I'm going to let Jamie Shaw expand on that now. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
Yeah, I mean, I think Julie did a great job of explaining that. I mean, it's really not about targeting a certain lesson or targeting a certain person, but rather the lens in which we teach, and recognizing that people are in a lot of different places. We come from different communities. We value things. I mean, money is a very personal topic, and there's not one way to teach about what students should or should not do. A lot of problems that people face on a daily basis are multifaceted, and cultural experiences come into play when making decisions. And so it really, for teachers, it's about recognizing you know, your biases, or just the things that, you know, what makes your students unique, and how can we highlight what they already know, and using their experiences in their families or their personal lives or whatever to teach them new concepts. So yes, there are things that they need to know, and there's vocabulary and there's processes that people should be familiar with, but it's also connecting with our students in ways which they can relate and bring those back to their communities and actually learn something meaningful.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And part of the answer I heard there was the decisions that people should make. And I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding, because when I think of financial literacy, when I think of the decisions that people should make, that's more kind of like in the financial planning. But again, this is a very broad topic. Financial literacy, each of us probably have different definitions. I guess when I think of financial literacy, I'm thinking of, you know, the definitions of various truths, timeless truths that aren't dependent on any culture or ethnicity or anything like that. Things like simple interest, compound interest, the time value of money, you know, things like that. But understanding the time value of money, understanding compound interest. If I have a clear understanding of how those things operate, that is separate than what decisions I should or should not make. But understanding what those things are, I guess I'm still not clear how you would teach me those truths versus teaching my wife, right? How do you, I mean, what would the difference be?
Well, Dr. Bunn, I think wants to comment to that. Dr. Bunn?
I agree there are certain concepts, and you referenced some concepts about time value of money, or concepts of budgeting, how the banking system works, et cetera, that would be where just things one has to learn and know. Where the differences come in from the different cultural backgrounds is if you propose to your students that you go get an after school job and you start making a certain amount of money, and you throw out the question, you know, what's the best way to use that money? How much of you should shave? How much of you should spend on consumables? What type of consumables? Well, depending on what culture you come from, you have a very different way of viewing that money you're earning. Some cultures and some families, it's your money. You're a high school kid, you go get an extra job, you can spend that on entertainment, maybe save for a car, et cetera. In other cultures, that's not just your money, it's family money, okay? It's part of helping to support your family. It's not viewed as just how do I optimize, how do I maximize my own life plan. It's more of a communal decision, and it's a larger input into the family. So there are very different ways. Interest is viewed different in different cultures and different religions. Whether to use banking is viewed in different cultures and access in different religions. So these are all things you have to have some awareness of, but mainly it's about different people view the same situation, the same facts, in some instances can be viewed differently from a different cultural perspective as to what the right decisions are, or what the decision options are.
And Dr. Bunn,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
You did hint at this, but I did want, since Representative Lucero made the point of compound interest and the time value of money, I think it's really worth noting that across the globe, that cultures have very different views about the role that interest should play in lending and how interest should accrue. And so that's actually a very good example that you brought forward there, Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the time value of money is it's not the value is not subjective. The formula to calculate the time value of money is objective. It's based on interest rate inflation, deflation, things like that. It's not culturally sensitive.
Your
right? The answer is dependent on objective variables. Thank you.
Representative Lucero, the mathematical equation may be objective. The way that you view it and how it impacts your life is subjective. Representative Elkins.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that I think, you know, pairing this bill with the preceding, presentations really tie together nicely. And in terms of the, you know, I'm one of 3 economists in the House right now, and but I grew up in a family that was, you know, where there was a lot of financial literacy. My dad was a business executive, and so I grew up with that kind of stuff. But you know, I don't know if Ms. Odegaard is still here, but she and I have also had conversations just about basics about, you know, importance of being banked. You know, just understanding what a bank account is and how important it is to building a credit report, a credit rating. And these things just don't come naturally to everyone in every culture. And I think it's extremely important to, you know, teach these kinds of things in high school, so that by the time a kid graduates from high school, they have at least the basic financial literacy and understand the importance of being banked and understanding what interest is, and regard, you know, and as the chair was saying, it you know, if you're Muslim, you don't believe in interest, and there are ways of potentially addressing that, but you have to understand it in your cultural complex, you know, in context. And you know, one comment I would make to Representative Lucero is I think that the single most important book that I may have read in my entire economic life is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which was written by a behavioral economist who won the Nobel Prize in economics for he and his partner Amos Tversky, pointing out all of the ways in which human beings, the way we think, does not comport with the way people behave in economic textbooks. And literally, I think that's the most important book I have ever read.
3 economists, that's catching up to lawyers in the House, in the legislature, and making me a little bit uncomfortable. Representative Dabney.
You're muted, Representative Dabney.
And I have a suspicion you were making a lawyer joke, so I'm really sad that you muted.
No, I was making a social studies teacher joke. But I was about to take a shot at, with Dr. Bunn on the Zoom, we might have reached our max in economists. I'm not sure, but Dr. Bunn and Ms. Shaw did a very good job of responding to Representative Lucero and talking about the cultural concepts. You know, the question of whose money is it and what is my responsibility with that money? But back from when I was teaching personal finance, I just wanted to give one very simple, concrete example of trying to be more culturally responsive with my students. When we talked savings, of course, what were the images we used to illustrate that? A piggy bank. I get it. You get it. Didn't work very well for the Muslim students. It was not, you know, many of whom were immigrant. They didn't grow up with a piggy bank being the symbol of savings. And of course they wouldn't have. And it was a light bulb moment for me when I figured that one out. So I asked one of them, we've had this argument that these concepts are universal. And so I thought, you know, this is a chance to engage my students. And I asked one of them, so I get that piggy bank doesn't work for you. What was the symbol for savings in your country growing up? And he said, oh, we didn't have any money to save. Oh, okay. So engaging your students, native born or immigrant, in their cultural beliefs, faith beliefs and the like, important. MCE does some great work, Mr. Chair, and I would certainly urge us to move this bill along. I benefited from their predecessor named organization when I was teaching, and allowed me to incorporate more economics into my middle school instruction. And I have a great respect for the work they're doing, pushing the rock uphill. on personal finance education and economics education. So thank you for the hearing for this bill today, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you, Representative Dabney. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Bunn and Representative Wattoon for bringing this bill forward. And it is really needed. And to some of the discussions before around just even understanding some of these financial concepts, I want to share the experience through the experiences of my immigrant refugee parents, where to Representative Dabney's point, when we were living the refugee camps in Thailand, there was no way of keeping track or saving any kind of currency that we may have that my family brought with them when they were in Laos coming into Thailand, and now coming to the U.S., where just even the concept of saving money or having a checking account or saving account was a foreign concept for my parents. And you add on to that, if they don't really have a trust in the financial system over here, because of the simple thing I would say a simple thing as having somebody that's able to communicate with them in their language when they go to a financial institution, and then to explain to them that foreign concept of what is interest, what is compound interest, how to even open, what is the benefit of being banked that Representative Elkins talked about, of having a checking and savings account. And so I think that this is really needed, and I really appreciate you bringing this forward so that the rest of so that all Minnesotans, regardless of where they are from or whatever is their nationality or their background, that they have the opportunity to really learn about the financial institutions that we have here, and to ensure that they understand the consumer protections that are in place to help them as a consumer here in Minnesota. And so I really appreciate the two of you bringing this forward, and Mr. Chair for allowing us to have this opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lee. We'll give the last word to Representative Khatiza Wattoon. Oh, whose screen might be frozen. Representative Khatiza Wattoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My internet just dropped. I left the Zoom and came back, so I missed the end of Representative Lee's comment, but I appreciate everybody sharing their stories and for asking some questions and thought-provoking discussion here today. So thank you to my testifiers for being a part of this program and making it more accessible for our educators across the state of Minnesota, who are going to in turn reach so many students and help us continue along this journey so that we can, that our students and the future adult Minnesotans feel better about their personal finance and economics backgrounds. And we'll just see where it takes us. So I would renew my motion that this bill be laid over for possible inclusion, and I would appreciate member support going forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair Khatiza Wattoon. And with that, we will lay over House File 2146.